FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is 1/24/20. Well, if you remember back to 2011, when the last time the resource market was really going crazy, and then, of course, gold, silver hit their peaks later on in 2011. Well, one of the places where I made the most money, and with a service that you're about to hear from, was a database of common stock warrants. And back then it was primarily resource-based stocks. Now it's expanded dramatically. Person responsible for it is a fellow by the name of Dudley Baker. And before I get started, if you're interested in warrants, then email us, kl@kerrylutz.com. So Dudley was running this service. It's now called commonstockwarrants.com. I followed Dudley's recommendations and his database religiously. And during that time, I made 10, 12, 15 time returns. Then the market fell apart. Luckily, I had sold out in October of 2011. It was just fortuitous, and managed to lock in my profits. And I learned a lot from Dudley over the years. Now, my belief is this market's coming back with a vengeance, and there's no better and, in many respects, less risky way to play these resource stocks than the warrants. And warrants, if you're not familiar, they're similar to options, except that the warrant is actually a contract where the company makes available to you the ability to convert your warrants into stock at a fixed price by a certain date. So very similar to options, except they're written by the company and not by the markets. And Dudley, it is really great to have you back. I see the business has really taken off. You've gotten into all sorts of different stocks besides Canadian resource stocks. You're into cannabis stocks, into a whole plethora of different opportunities here. And you've got them now broken out by U.S. and Canadian. Well, first, it's great to have you back. And second, thanks for sticking with this market. I mean, I'm sure it's been challenging over the past 8 years, with the exception of a little blip during 2016.
Well, Kerry, it has been a long time since we've last visited. And yeah, it's been quite a journey since the last peak in the resource sector. But somewhere back in there, and I think it was around 2013, in the summer of 2013, I just decided to expand our service with the database of stock warrants into the U.S. markets. So I've actually got it broken down on our website with a U.S. database and separately a Canadian database to make it simpler to, for investors to get to what they're really looking for. So no, it's been a journey, but business has continued on. There has been a few bright spots through the years with warrants in the resource space. A few years ago, Northern Dynasty, went from pennies to $3-4 to common stock. And during that period of time, they just came out with a warrant that was trading that. This is just one example that even though we've kind of been in a negative market, there's a few bright spots that do appear from time to time. So I bought that warrant on Northern Dynasty at 16.5 cents and sold it for over $3. And this was all in a period of 7 months. It was when Trump, before the election, but was talking about deregulating, deregulations on the environmental aspects and stuff. And so Northern Dynasty just went to the moon. The warrants went, and I said, this is great. It's always the deal when something goes parabolic. You want to be in it as long as possible, but you want to be out as fast as possible also. So you didn't want to ride that baby back down. So the deal is you pick your entry point down at the bottom, and you pray like hell that something that you own goes parabolic. And then you get to make a decision at one point, do I get to sell? But it has been an incredible journey, whether I know probably most of your listeners are interested in the resource sector. is where my personal hot button is as well. And so I see a lot of good opportunities in our database right now. And yeah, no, you did a good job at describing the stock warrants. So many, I'd say virtually every resource company out there today probably has a stock warrant, but most of them were issued in connection with a private placement. And, a lot of our listeners just do not have the opportunity to participate in the private placements. So you kind of miss out on some of these things. And now if we're fortunate, these companies, and it's always a decision that the company makes, do they or do they not want their stock warrants to trade? So the company and their legal team, they make this decision, not me, not you. So it's predicated on what's the company's desire. And so we've got a nice basket, 30, 40 companies in the mining space right now, a couple of royalty companies, gold companies, silver companies that give investors a really good look at what is available and with some long-term lives. So it is all about lives, with the stock options. Normally you're talking about 1 month up to maybe a maximum of a year. Well, with warrants, most of the warrants were issued anywhere from, usually a minimum of 2-year life to maybe up to 5 years if we're fortunate. And so it's all about timing, and it's all about, the market the climate and the timing. And I think, I don't want to lead you on this, but I think we probably both intuitively believe that we are in a sweet spot right now,
right?
Finally, for the resource sector.
Agreed. So one of the things that people have asked me is, how do I buy Canadian stocks easily and efficiently? There just aren't that many online American services out there that make that easy.
I tell you what I finally moved over to a few years ago is Interactive Brokers. Really, really big outfit, basically worldwide. You can, if you wanted to trade futures, you can trade futures. You can basically trade the markets, around the world. I live here in Mexico full time and have for over 20 years now. If I wanted to trade stocks on the Bolsa exchange, the Mexican stock exchange, I could do that through Interactive Brokers as well. But they also do a good job of all of the warrants, all of the small mining companies. We can actually put our orders in, with the .b, the .to. Everything is there on Venture Exchange and the new CSE exchange. All of the stocks and the warrants are there. When I will say, when a new warrant is issued, if I see that is not in their database, I reach out and I send them a quick email and I said, we need to add X, Y, and Z to your database. And usually within 24, 48 hours, they honor the request and they get everything up to speed. So, but I've just come to really like the platform and the security that they have, and it's worked for me. And it's a big enough company that it's probably a worldwide company, and it just gives me a lot of confidence here and doing business with them. I still have one or two other smaller brokerage firms, but it's kind of like most of those firms out there that they don't want to do this or they don't want to do that, or we cannot enter if there's a U.S. symbol for one of our small companies, or a U.S. symbol for some of the stock warrants. And in many cases there are, so we can, with a 5 alpha symbol, enter that on some of the brokerage firms. I have all this in the database if there is a U.S. symbol. But I've just found that I've gotten really comfortable with Interactive Brokers, and if I've got a problem, I can reach out and frequently get somebody on the phone and address whatever that would be. But I really don't have any issues with them. So it has worked for me. And I know in my I've got anybody that's not familiar with warrants, on my website on commonstockwarrants.com, you'll see that it's basically a marketing page. And if you can download a free copy what I call the stock warrant handbook. And in there, I've got a few brokerage firms. Right now, one that was formerly Pentrade, Paulson, is just going through some issues. And so if you read that and you see that it's really not an operable option here at the moment. But also in there, I do mention the interactive brokers. And so that's kind of my personal favorite at the moment.
Yeah, same here. I agree. It's definitely, they're on top of it. They're a very tight operation, international, and you can trade anything on it, which is great. And they've got really good trading tools too. So let's look at the opportunities in warrants today. If we are, in fact, on the cusp of a major resource stock boom, particularly gold and silver, what do we have to look forward to?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Silver One Resources is an exploration and development company backed by strategic investors Eric Sprott and SSR Mining. The company is focused on its Candelaria mine project in Nevada, where there is already a historic resource estimated at 127 million ounces of silver. The Candelaria mine historically was the highest grade silver producer in Nevada, generating over 68 million ounces of silver at an amazing average production rate of over 1,250 grams per ton. The project has tremendous expansion potential as past drilling has outlined deeper, high-grade silver targets for future drill programs. Silver One is highly leveraged to the price of silver and is cashed up and poised to increase shareholder value. Silver One trades in New York under the ticker SLVRF and in Toronto under the ticker SVE. To learn more, go to silverone.com. That's silverone.com.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Well, I'm looking for the opportunity to have a rip-roaring bull market right in front of us with the excitement that you and I have personally seen years ago. I'd like to think that we're going to have 1 or 2 years or so of just fun times. Well, so to me, if you could find, let's say and I'll mention a couple of names here, but if we can find let's say a gold producer. And gold goes on up to whether it just hits the old high of 1,900. If we get lucky and we go through 2,000, we go to 2,500. I personally have no idea where we're going. If we're going to take it as it comes and we're going to follow other people, in the business that, like I know Chris Vermillion has been a guest on your show. I follow Chris as well, subscribe to his service. I like to follow him from the technical standpoint. They do see the possibility that we could exceed $3,000 on gold and up to $90 or more on silver, all within the next 24 months. Holy crap. If that happens, you and I and the listeners are going to be really happy campers. And so it's a matter of, we know this opportunity sounds like it's right in front of us. And since it is, we're here to try to maximize our return within this window in front of us, whether that means buying a basket of mining shares, gold and silver. That's what I've got. I've got kind of a diversified basket myself. And if you can find some stock warrants that are trading on companies that you like as an investor, and then add those to the portfolio. And so that's what I have personally done and feel comfortable with. Now, I'll mention two names in the gold arena here. And I know you just got back from Vancouver at the big conference last weekend, and both of these companies were there. So Equinox Gold was there with Ross Beaty, now heading this up. Equinox is just still in the process. I don't believe it's wrapped up yet, doing the merger with LEA Gold. They're going to almost immediately jointly have 6 operating mines, 700,000 ounces of annual production, and they a real clear path that within the next, I think, year or so to maybe hit that 1 million ounces of production. And that's Ross Beaty's personal goal. He's looking to build Equinox Gold as a friggin' empire, and there's going to be a legacy to him. And so I've been on this story for years. They've got a warrant that's trading that I have a whole bunch of. I will say right now it's got a little shorter life than I would like. It's going to expire think, of like October of 2021. So we've got like a year and 9-10 months, a little shorter than I'd like. But the reason I'm still comfortable with it is because I think this bull market is going to happen like right now, or pretty damn quick. So I think we're going to have a big move, and anybody in this, I think we're going to be really well served. Another one that I've really, again, liked for some time is another producer is Gran Columbia Gold. And I understand Gran Columbia Gold was also at the conference. Yeah. They've got a warrant, got probably at least a 4-year remaining life. They're already producing over 200,000 ounces of gold a year. It's going to cost you more. That warrant is up in the $3 range, but it's still going to be as the price of gold goes up. Gran Columbia Gold is just going to be a cash cow with higher gold prices. And that just means that the shares have got to go up, the warrants have got to go up. And so that's still going to give you a really nice bang for your buck. Right. So in the gold space, yeah, and I know both of those were there. I've chatted briefly with management before, and but no, I like those stories, and I just see these are not even what I really call, especially when you look at the common shares. And let's say what a person could do if they think, wow, maybe that's not enough time. But what you do is you decide, okay, if you've got $5,000 or $10,000, just allocate that out and buy some common shares and then buy some warrants. And you kind of got your own hedge that if something happens, the clock ticks off on you and the warrants would expire, maybe out of the money, which would mean they're worthless, which I sure don't want to see. I don't look for that to happen, but anything is always possible in life. But if you had a position in the common shares also, we know the common shares are always going to be there, and you've got that longer term. You're not hostage to a 2-year life, let's say. Right.
So what?
Yeah, we're still about 4 years of remaining life with Gran Columbia Gold. Lots of time there.
Right. What is the ideal length of time before a warrant expires to be in on it? Do you look for a minimum time till maturity, or is it case by case?
I will admit that, I mean, in all of my writings and when I would define long term as 2 years or more of remaining life till the warrant expires. So we are getting into, I mean, now we're inside this 2-year window on several of the warrants, even that I own. And so I'm not excited about that. The only reason I'm excited is because I feel like we are on the verge of these markets taking off on the next up leg here at any moment. And so I'm more comfortable now than I would have been a few years ago when we didn't have any great expectations of the markets blasting off at any moment. It seems like now the consensus is that we're staring this in the face right now from a technical standpoint, that we should be looking really good here. And maybe just 2020 just becomes just an incredible year for all of us in the resource space. But normally I'm looking at this 2 years now, but I'm kind of fudging a little bit. I mean, I've been in some of these positions, a lot longer, and now we're just coming inside that. So whether our listeners are comfortable with it coming into some of these things I mentioned, especially the Equinox with less than 2 years, but I still think we're in a sweet spot here that it's all going to work out for us. But normally I would be looking at 2 years, a 2-year life or more. Then you can kind of sleep better at night, not worry too much about this.
So 2 years, and what's it like when you actually watch something expire worthless? I mean, what are your feelings there?
No, it's never fun, but I mean, believe me, it has happened to me. Given a choice, I mean, if you can see, pretty much, you got to make a decision going out. If you can see, a year to 6 months out, that man, high probability this baby's not going to work out. I say you just try to get what you can and close out that position instead of just writing it down to the last day. You pretty much know once you're way out of the money. Sometimes you can do this, sometimes you cannot. So, and that's why maybe on some of the smaller, maybe you don't want a lot of money. It's a matter of how you spread your money out so that not one position is gonna kill you. You need a diversified amount. And I always say that probably anything that you have a clock ticking, whether that's an option, whether that's a stock warrant, you don't want 100% of your money, in that. So
Right.
I always think conservatively, 10%, 20% maybe of your portfolio, you try to allocate to some long-term stock warrants, but never go all in, with your whole
Right.
well, don't a whole enchilada on the line, for something that could possibly expire on you.
Yeah.
But all the warrants, it's like, just for example, on the Equinox right now, it's the terms have changed a little. They did a 1-for-5 rollback. They did it only to get a listing on the New York Exchange, and so now we're on the Toronto and the New York Exchange, which is great. Great visibility now. U.S. funds can actually buy. Equinox had incredible trading volume, sitting almost on the high for the year right now. We're sitting around $11. That's on the Toronto market. The warrant now sitting at about 42 cents. So it's, but it does take 5 warrants now to buy one share at $15 Canadian. But I'm looking at the possibility if we go to $20, $25, $30, $40 on Equinox before this party's over, these warrants definitely have 10-bagger potential. And that's still the way that I'm playing the game, even with this little bit shorter life than I like. I still think we have 10-bagger potential from this 40-cent range. I think we can run it up to, and between $3 to $5 is what my personal target is. To get these warrants up to. And if the markets will cooperate with us, I think we definitely have that opportunity. And then there's some great silver. Yeah, one little silver company that I've been on board, and I know the management. Again, I believe that they were in Vancouver. Is Kootenay Silver, KTN, on the venture. A lot of exploration properties down here in Mexico. There is a warrant that's trading. To me, the life is probably a lot less than what you would want. I still have a nice position in those warrants because they were picked up a few years ago. But there are some warrants in the database. But I would not just encourage anybody to run out and buy those. The stock right now, I think, is around 28 cents Canadian. The warrant exercise price is up at around 55 cents. So we've got to more than double to make this start to look attractive on these warrants. But I like the common shares, so I've got a nice position in the company shares. Visited with management before at different mining conferences, and so it's just a low price silver company. If we're fortunate and the powers be that make this happen, that we end up seeing the $50 silver or more, the $90 silver.
Right.
It's hard to believe how straight up some of these little companies are going to go. And I know you and I have seen these in the past years, and we live for this opportunity again. And hopefully this is now right in front of us one more time for all our listeners.
Yeah, we can only hope, but I just have a feeling this is it, because the psychology of the companies attending VRIC, they were all upbeat and all excited, and deals were getting made right and left. And, I just hadn't seen that in so long that I said, this might be it. Last year, in December, they were guardedly optimistic. And now we've got $1,560 gold, and a lot of companies, put out PEAs, the ones that did, at $1,300 gold, and they were showing IRRs of, mid 30s. Now those are up to like 60, 70 IRR. So it really holds the potential of a major move here. And, if they've got warrants and they get discovered, and all bets are off.
Oh yeah. No, and it's all about the market timing. You could have, let's face it, whether it was me or whether it was a subscriber, over the last 5, 6, 7 years, it's hard to make money when your sector is going down. And I mean, so that's why I kind of showcased that Northern Dynasty. That was like one of the really bright spots, over the last 7 to 8 years, of which there's been a few and far between, but there has been some. But basically, it's all about market timing, coming in. Whether you're buying shares, whether you're buying options, whether you're buying stock warrants. I mean, it's market timing. What is happening right now, and what's going to happen over the next year or 2 years. And so I think it's this, and every listener, every investor has to make this decision on their own. I always like to kind of compare this story to like as kids, where we had the merry-go-round out on the playground. So the merry-go-round is going round and round, and we all individually decide when to jump on and when to jump off. But we got to have confidence here in these markets that we are getting ready for a nice up move. And I think that's what you and I personally both feel. And I think a lot of the guys in the business feel this way. And hopefully our readership feels this way. And it's hard to say what really happens. I mean, the markets reach a point, and then the euphoria takes over, and things really start going parabolic. And that's where we live for that day, challenging day, because when you got your shares going straight up, and I know a lot of listeners are probably saying, "What are you guys talking about?" Well, you and I have both seen it. Okay, a lot of listeners now maybe have not seen this in the past, but it is a fun time. And then your consideration is truly, when do I sell?
Yeah.
But it's all about being in the game, and at reasonable prices, already on board. Because I mean, where a lot of the shares and walks have already gone up in value, but they have not exploded yet. They have not come close to exploding like they're going to. And so there's still time to get on board. But I think the train's getting ready to pull out here pretty soon. And so I'd encourage everybody to top off their portfolios. If you've got some cash, or take a look, definitely visit my site, visit get your free copy of the Stock Warrant Handbook, see if that's of any interest to you. I think the main thing that I like to stress for all investors, whether you subscribe to my service or not, the end game, we would like all of our followers to make money on this upcoming bull market, whether that's shares, whether that's stock warrants, whatever. But it's going to be our time in the sun here, and we'd like all of our interested people to take advantage of this and not go to sleep and miss this opportunity that we really think is coming.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's definitely on its way. And one thing, when it's so important that you take profits when you have them. Just tell us your philosophy on selling.
Oh man, I'm a greedy guy. I want to get. I truly want to get as much as possible. I mean, I'm in on several of the positions we've talked about, and it's hard to say. So sometimes selling is difficult for all of us. Let's say, okay, it really is. But it's going to be even more of it's an easier decision right now for me, because I'm saying the next year or two should be like a rocket ship. We have that potential here in these markets. So I really don't want to sell anything. I mean, like take Kootenay Silver, for example. I mean, I'm in Kootenay as low as I know. I came into a private placement with a company less than a year ago at 14 cents. Stock's been to 34 cents. There was a 5-year warrant attached to that private placement, so which unfortunately does not trip. But it's like I have no intention of selling any of that, because I see the opportunity of in a rip-roaring market. Now, will it be based on earnings? Will it be based on production? I'm saying when these markets take off, all of this will be irrelevant.
Yes.
Kootenay will go to $1, $2, $3. I don't know. It's going to get caught up in the wave, like everything. I mean, this is just an example. Okay, so what do I know? I don't know where it's going, but this is the way I personally look at things. So everything is still going to be 10-bagger potential, even for Kootenay Silver at 28 cents.
Right.
And I just think they've got so many properties, they can bring stuff on into production probably at any time that they want. And they've got a lot of big players that have partnered with them. So I think a lot of good things will happen to this little company. So, but no, and for that reason, I think, but let's back to your basic question. I know the philosophy is always, if you get 100%, you probably ought to sell half, get your cash off the table, and ride the rest. I have no problem at all with that philosophy, but I will say I do not always adhere to that myself. I want to get more. If I would have done that with back to the example on the Northern Dynasty warrants, I would have bought those warrants at 16.5 cents, a few years ago. That means I would have been selling out at 33 cents. Well, they went 10 times higher. And so I rode the whole thing. I felt comfortable. I knew I had a 5-year warrant. So the clock was not ticking on me. And I just got, say, lucky. And I think a lot of us, sometimes we just want to be lucky, better lucky than smart in some cases. I was in the right place at the right time. I decided to come in. I wish I'd have had a hell of a lot more money to put in those babies, but I didn't. But I rode that up, and that was basically 20 times, from 16.5 cents up to over $3 in 7 months. So anybody could go back. I've still got charts on all this stuff, but anybody can go back and look at the Northern Dynasty and watch what happened in that period of time. It was just an explosive rally. And a lot of people didn't even know there was stock warrant trading. And that's kind of what maybe that leads me to this question, Kerry, is that, a lot of the other newsletter writers, I mean, everybody's great and they'll talk about the companies, but a lot of times they will, even themselves, may not be aware that there are stock warrants trading on companies that they are recommending.
Yeah, very true.
And other ones were recommending Northern Dynasty, okay, which is great. But I don't know that anybody ever mentioned that the warrants that were trading on Northern Dynasty. So I look at my service, if you will, as a little bit of a filtering mechanism that subscribe to anybody's service out there that you want to, but then have a subscription over here at Common Stock Warrants, just so you have access to the database. So whether it would be a David Morgan or a Jay Taylor or America Tusa or anybody that's talking about stocks, then you've got a database you can go to and say, wow, I wonder, and within minutes or seconds, you will know if there's a stock warrant trading on any of the companies that they are talking about, that they are recommending. And then it's the question, is there enough time remaining? Would you rather buy the warrant instead of the common shares? Because just in general, the warrants are going to cost you half, maybe 20% of the cost of the common shares. So you have a lot less capital on the line, risk capital, at if you will, and still a bigger income opportunity. I always say if you're looking for, if the common shares went up 100%, I'm looking for those warrants to at least double, or at least perform twice that amount. So that's the normal rule of thumb for me, is I want to make 2 to 3 times more by buying the warrants than the common shares. But it's just another alternative of investing. And again, it all starts with the market timing. It starts with, I always say, a warrant on what? A warrant on a specific company that you like as an investor, that you personally like, not that I like, because I've got them all in the database. Everything that's trading in the U.S. and Canada is in our database. And so I can't own them all. And a lot of them I don't have a personal opinion on. But in the resource space, I think there's a good chance everything's going to get carried away and is going to get taken to substantially higher levels here over the next year or 2 years.
Oh, I totally agree. Well, we got to get going now. Dudley, commonstockwarrants.com, and highly recommend it, both from personal experience and other people I know. There's just information there that Dudley, you've compiled that you just can't find elsewhere. It's really hard looking up warrants in the general stock databases. They're not all there. They don't show, and it's definitely problematical, So Anyways, Common Stock Warrants, commonstockwarrants.com. Tell them Kerry sent you. Sign up for the service. It's invaluable. It paid for itself so many times over when I was doing it in 2011, and it's going to pay for it now. I assure you of that. Anyway, Dudley, questions or comments for Dudley or myself, please email us, kl@kerrylutz.com, Twitter feed @KerryLutz, Facebook page, Financial Survival Network. Dudley, we'll talk to you again real soon.
Okay. Enjoy the chat.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.